Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. Today we are moving on to chapter 29 in the book entitled Kate Gosselin, How She Fooled the World. This chapter is entitled, I Want My Fake TV. Kate famously said, "We're not scripted. You heard me. We are not scripted. We're living. The kids run in and out of the frame and they just live." But Hoffman wants to let us know that it should be no secret any longer that reality TV is definitely scripted. And TLC has creative control over everything that happens on the program. Kate Gosselin has been quoted many, many times as saying, "Our show is the most real show in all of TV." But Hoffman, likely through speaking to Jon and other sources that he has related to the production, has been told many times over that the Gosselin kids were told where to go, how to act, what to say, and what to do to fit each pre-planned scripted episode. He claims that these kids were threatened and bribed before and during filming, specifically to always look happy and to smile and not be in a bad mood. Hoffman tells us that he believes the kids lived in constant fear of punishment from Kate if they didn't act appropriately in the scenes. I hate to think that that's really true. I hope that there's a little bit of exaggeration going on there. But from everything we've seen in this book, unfortunately, it's possible that this is what was happening behind the scenes. Hoffman states that there were times that the kids were tricked, lied to, and deprived of food or water if they didn't perform to Kate Gosselin's satisfaction. Now, we saw that short clip that I showed in a prior episode where, and this wasn't because they weren't performing, but they're waiting to go on for some kind of interview, and Kate is like sitting with all her kids. The kids are complaining, especially Mady is complaining about how thirsty they are. They really want a drink. And Kate's kind of ignoring them. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Hey, yeah, that's true. I need a drink. Can someone get me a drink?" So she gets a drink. She takes the bottle of water, drinks it in front of her kids, then sets it down beside her, doesn't give the kids anything. And Maddie's like, "Hey, you just drank that in front of me." The children, she's like, "When this is over, we'll get you something. When this is all over, somebody will get you something." Not me, the mom, but someone from production will rush out and get you some juice boxes or something. Now, this is interesting to me. According to Hoffman, he's spoken to people from the camera crew, and they admitted to bribing the kids with candy and presents to get them to be happy during their couch interviews. Lollipops, jelly beans, M&Ms were the candies of choice. The kids' interviews were shot and reshot over and over until they got things right. Wow, I never thought that was what was going on. This is very eye-opening for me. A film crew member actually told Hoffman, "It all depends on which kids act the happiest as to who you will see on the interview couch during an episode." So I guess that also kind of creates a weird dynamic in the family of like a child being treated a certain way because they performed the best for the camera. Like, this is my favorite child because this child performs really well. This child did really well today on camera, did the things that we wanted him or her to do, so they get to be the favorite for a little while. And not just from Kate, but it sounds like the film crew as well. So it's kind of being indoctrinated into them that they need to please these people who are around filming them. Now, we've seen this even in just the small clips I've shown to you guys. But Hoffman, reminds us that Kate Gosselin's spiel to the world is that her kids love to film. It's like the best part of their life. They absolutely love it. They adore going places with Kate and the film crew, and they want to keep doing it forever and never stop, and make sure that you send them to all the best places that have spas for Kate to spend time at, because that's what's really important to the kids. Kate constantly talked about how good all the trips and adventures were for her and her kids, and it was really important for them to have these wonderful new experiences that they wouldn't have gotten if they weren't on the TLC show. I mean, like, does a 3 or 4-year-old remember a trip to New Zealand that they took so that Kate could go to some crazy spa with John? But Kate was really good at getting her public to buy the idea that they were just living their lives. So what does it matter if the film crew is around and videotaping all of it? Now, what Hoffman argues here is interesting and something I've never really thought about. He says that all of these big grand trips were actually kind of like torture for these kids because they were forced to go on like long plane rides, long car drives to go to these places. And then when they would arrive, there was no real payoff for them, according to Hoffman. He says like they get there and now it's time to film. And their actions and what they're going to do is going to be controlled by what filming needs to be done in this location. So they're not free to just go and have fun and be kids and do what they want to do and interact with their parents in a natural way. Specifically, Hoffman points out a trip to Bald Head Island in North Carolina. And the TLC cameras came along, they were rolling, and they paid for everything. That's how they got to go. The kids were excited to run down to the water from their beach house and play and splash around like normal kids do when they hit the beach. But unfortunately, the adventure the Gosling kids got to experience that 3 days was 3 minutes of being filmed as they ran down to the water's edge. Then they were ordered immediately to turn around and return to the house because they had more filming to do elsewhere. They were wrangled like cattle down to the water for a few minutes of filming and then marched right back to the house and taken somewhere else. Just think about how disappointed and frustrated they must have felt when they weren't allowed to play on the beach after a 10-hour car ride. Hoffman also talks about like filming that would happen on holidays. He says like he has just thought about how weird it would be or how hard it would be to wake up on Christmas morning and to want to run downstairs and open presents and be with your family, but it all has to be done in a way that it can be filmed. And so this was like a very controlled atmosphere as well. And he states that he has no knowledge of like them doing a separate Christmas that wasn't filmed for the kids. So everything is very dependent upon what the film crew needs from them so that they can make the reality television show. Another specific instance that Hoffman talks about is the kids' first day of school in kindergarten. And he says that TLC filmed the kids' first day of school on September 12th, 2006. But this was actually 2 weeks after the start of school. And the kids were told by Kate and the film crew to act like it was their first day. And wouldn't this be like kind of confusing and annoying for the kids in certain ways? And he argues that this is like not the first time that they've had to do something like this where it's all just like playing pretend and being on TV. He emphasizes another holiday, Thanksgiving 2010, where he says that the kids were filming in California. They were filming a Thanksgiving meal out there. I don't know why, but they flew in back home the next day so they would actually celebrate Thanksgiving on Black Friday. But what happened is that Kate had then scheduled them to appear in some kind of like, I don't know, commercial or video for the show. So they all had to be dressed up as Native Americans in costumes and come out to the front lawn for paparazzi to photograph them, pretending to have a great time. And that was how they spent their Thanksgiving in 2010. He talks about an incident I had no knowledge of regarding the Alaska trip that I think is kind of interesting. And this was after Kate and John had separated. Allegedly, directly before the Alaska trip, like the night before, Mady called John and asked him if she could come stay with him at his apartment because she said she absolutely did not want to go away for any more filming, and especially not as far away as Alaska. And Hoffman says, like, I know this for sure because I went to Kate's house with John to pick up Mady that night, and I heard the discussion between John and Kate through an intercom at the gate because he wasn't let in. Kate completely disregarded John's concerns about Mady and blew it off by saying that Mady was just tired and she didn't mean what she said. She, of course, managed to insult John several times during the exchange. This was at night, in the dark, with no paparazzi watching. It was just a loving father coming to get his unhappy daughter, who had called him for help. John told Kate that he would be back in the morning to get Mady, and Kate told him that she would have the police at the house to arrest him if he tried, and Mady went to Alaska. That's crazy. That is a piece of tea that I needed to know. So even Mady, who's kind of estranged from Jon now and doesn't talk to him, yeah, she wanted to get out of there in certain ways as well. She's probably angry at Jon because he didn't save her from all of that. Hoffman goes on to say only a handful of people know anything about the drama that led up to this Alaska trip. But he says there's a photo that was released to the media like prior to the trip happening, kind of like getting everyone ready, advertising that this was going to happen on Sarah Palin's Alaska. And in this photo, it looks like Mady is pretty pissed off. You see a smiley Kate with all the kids. But when you look at Mady on the far right, you'll see how sad and miserable she is. She's crying in the publicity photo. That photo is all the proof anyone would ever need to see that she didn't want to be there. TLC couldn't come up with one single publicity still where Mady appeared even a little bit happy. Not one, and you know they did it over and over and over again. And they just couldn't get a picture with all of the kids looking like they wanted to be there. And we all know, if you didn't watch my video about the Alaska trip, that allegedly they went, they were supposed to do a camp out, and then in the end, Kate just decided they weren't going to stay like overnight for the camp out because it was too hard for her. And he doesn't say any more about that here, but it seems like the kids, had some thought that they were going to get to do something fun that ended up being cut short. The rest of this episode talks about the end of Jon and Kate plus 8 and the Kate plus 8 series. And he says basically everything about these last episodes was just damage control. All of the interview sessions were basically Kate responding to all the criticism she was constantly receiving about what was going on with her kids. She tried to tamp down the rumors and wanted to rebuild her brand and herself as like a wonderful wife and mother, single mom, doing it all. And he gives us an example where it was coming out that many people were saying that Kate doesn't do her own grocery shopping. Right after this statement was made and people were talking about it, TLC went ahead and filmed Kate grocery shopping at the supermarket with all 8 kids to prove them wrong. And Kate continued to steadfastly deny that anything about the show was scripted or made up. She wrote on one of her social media sites, "To our faithful fans who deserve an answer. In the recent days, we have been informed that there are a lot of lies circulating about us. Just so you know, we have worked hard to show you our real life, and we have succeeded. Although it is not always easy, we will continue to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly on our show. Unfortunately, as with anyone who is on TV, there are jealous bystanders, family included." I think she's talking about a lot of people, but I think this was directed towards Jody, her sister-in-law, who, for whatever reason, insist upon telling hurtful untruths. We will continue to love these family members. We will not retaliate. We will leave it alone out of respect for them. But as a reminder, nothing that you read on the internet or in print is true unless it is approved by us. Unless it's approved by me. It's not true. Thank you for watching. As our family grows and develops, our children have always been our priority. We will continue to be our top priority, and quite honestly, nothing else matters to us. Kate says that she's a very big stickler. And if you say, let's do this, and she says that's not how they do things, then they don't film it. So she's saying they may tell me they want something, but if that's not how we do it, we're not going to film it. But in that very same episode, Hoffman points out, we see shots of producer Jen Stocks holding a clapboard with take 4 written on it and a cute little video montage of the clapboard clapping, signaling retakes aplenty. Just minutes later, though, we see an interview clip of Alex, the location sound guy, sharing his insight. And here's what Alex, the location sound guy, said just minutes after we saw the clapping. The sound guy says that the one thing about this show is that it's not your typical reality show where it's all fake and they're doing things 2 or 3 times and all that sort of nonsense. He said everything they do happens in real time and what you're seeing actually happens, so he appreciates this show is dealing with real people and not dealing with actors. But Hoffman says, how does that make sense when we just saw a clapboard clapping away with take 4 on the sign? How can you say that retakes don't exist when we literally just saw you taking 4? How can you stand there and lie and say that everything happens in real time? Kate continued to tweet on, "This show is real, and the tabloids are not approved by me." All right, guys, that's it for chapter 29. I will try to get another chapter out shortly, maybe later today. Thanks for heading down this rabbit hole with me. I'll see you again soon.